Good evening. I now call to order the Downtown Community Task Force meeting of July 20th, 2023. Leslie, please call roll.
Member Thompson?
Here.
Member Ondrasek? He said he was going to be absent today. Member Mayer also said he would be absent today. Member Von Hune? Member Vargas Smith? Here. Member Reed is not present, and we have not heard from him as of right now. Member Coyne indicated that he would be absent today. Member Tai? Here. And Member Varjane. She is also not here, and I have not heard from her either.
I did bump into her at the farmer's market. I think she was going on vacation.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
We do, right? Because we don't need a quorum, right?
No, you're not voting on it.
We're not voting on it. Is there a motion to excuse the missing task force members?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor of excusing Member Varshne, Member Mayer, Mayor Undersek, Mayor Reed? I think that's everybody. Say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. All right, they're excused. Leslie, will you please read the DCTF meeting procedures into record?
Yeah, thank you. Meetings are conducted by the chair in accordance with the following procedures. The chair of the DCTF directs all activity during the meeting. Any item on this agenda may be continued to a subsequent meeting. Special procedures, time limits may be applied to any item as prescribed by the chair. Copies of the current agenda and staff reports for each of the items on the agenda are available online on the Downtown Precise Plan website, as well as on the City Clerk's website. Agendas for those who are here in the council chambers with us today are located by the door. Chair?
Thank you, Leslie. We'll now move to the consent calendar.
The procedure for the consent calendar is as follows. Consent calendar items may be enacted or approved by one motion unless requested to be removed by anyone for discussion or explanation. There are two items on our consent calendar this evening. Number one, the Downtown Community Task Force meeting minutes of December 16th, 2021. And number two, Downtown Community Task Force meeting minutes of June 15th, 2023.
It's all right. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for December 16th and June 15th?
So moved.
Oh, shoot, we are voting and we do need a quorum.
Oh.
So we should motion to continue these items
All right.
to the next hearing.
Motion to continue these items to the next hearing when we have a quorum.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? No. No. All right. Moving to general business. Leslie.
We have one item on our agenda this evening, and that is for Chair Thompson to provide a review of information on the community benefits program for the Downtown Precise Plan.
Like everybody can see it. So welcome. So the point of this is to kind of hone in some of the language and the expectation for what the community benefit would require to achieve the bonus height we put forth in the plan. So I took a look at a bunch of different cities, adjacent cities, and reviewed a report from our financial advisor, ESP, that he had completed for Oakland downtown area that had done an analysis on the feasibility of bonus structures based on community benefits. And there's a wide variety of implementations out there from adjacent cities and around. And it seemed to be reading about the success and what has and has not been basically what they've seen developers actually latch onto is the simpler it is, the better it is. Being as straightforward as possible and being transparent and across the board seems to be, for Sunnyvale and other cities, the best way for them to actually participate in the program. So in order to maintain transparency and fairness across the life of the downtown precise plan, a community benefit program fee shall be applied to any additional rentable square footage approved above the base height listed in figure 6.1 of the form-based code. So since we're giving those benefits in perpetuity forever, there should be a cost coming back to the city into a fund where they can use it for, the items that we've talked about: parking, theater, art, affordable retail, and even just other community benefits like organized events. You, Anna, have had to go to the city on multiple occasions, and it's been tough to get funds, right? Because there's nothing specific for community events, and it has been a great way to create that place. So to have something going forward would be great. So with that being said, and trying to keep simple and just holding it to the additional rentable square footage they get, it really, can I cut this? There we go. Sorry, it's probably better. We want to create that lasting partnership for the life of the actual building and project, right? And the downtown. So the fee calculation, the community benefit program will apply fee based on a percentage of the gross residential rental rates in perpetuity. So it would be whatever their rental rate is, we would ask for a percentage of it, and they would be giving it to us annually after they've incurred. Currently, right now, the average based on the newer housing, not the older stuff that's out there. So like the small single families have been converted into rentals, or even the current downtown apartment complex that's an older development that's not really taken in. This is what I see for the Benton project, Gateway downtown, excuse me, it's not downtown, the other Silicon Stage one. Anyway, a bunch of the ones in the area, about $425 a square foot is what I've come up with to kind of calculate this out for us to put it in perspective. So I think based on looking at kind of all the data, 10 to 15% is probably where we would want to be on a percentage of the gross annual rent. I would like Ben to look at it and kind of evaluate obviously where that really should lie. But it gives us a range based on today's, to put it in perspective, today's rental rates would be around $5 to almost, $7.50, $8 a square foot. So then I thought, well, there's so many different things we want to do, and how do you make sure that this is kind of set up for a long-term programming perspective, right? Because the downtown, this is a pretty long initiative. So I think to get the public right-of-way betterments, and we've talked about public-private partnerships a lot, to be able to have a fund that has money in there to then go and negotiate with the next developer that comes, say, well, maybe we can buy the theater down. Maybe we can buy some parking in their parking structure so we can defer having to build our own parking structure. So to have that, and then once those betterments are completed, or the capital improvement projects are complete and the downtown becomes what it becomes, there's still going to be ongoing maintenance and changes, right? I looked at Santana Row, where that little park out in front of Maggiano's, it's been redone at least 3 times. And for a multitude of reasons, right? They find out functionally it doesn't function the way they want. Then it gets worn down. Then they want to come up with another creative. So that would be able to long-term be able to continue the betterments in the downtown and the pedestrian experience. Art installations and historic preservation and the organized community events fund, right? So Deborah's really knows this, right? A lot of cities have a 1% art fee. So that's kind of where I kind of structured this, right? Of it would be enough to meet that 1% that other cities have, as well as still being able to provide some benefits to doing, funding partially a farmer's market, if that, for enlarging that program, and maybe doing the Parade of Champions and other street dance, all that, to fund it long term and create that synergy in that place. And then lastly, we looked at, one of the biggest success we all really want out of this is retail, right? That pedestrian streetscape and that experience. So to subsidize the local businesses and allow them to be more flexible and leave it to the developer to lease out their own space, but then allow local individuals to come and apply for subsidies like we do in other programs through housing and utility rates and whatnot. So that way, then it would be able to be a little bit more controlled and specifically to those local entities and not to the big chains. So this is kind of breaking down again, a little bit more flushing out what would be in there, right? Trying to take what we had looked at before. So for the art historical, let your mind run wild, right? We work with the developers and say, well, we'll put towards a mural on the building, or we want, to restore the fountain that's out there and bring it back to life. I mean, there's so many different things we can do with that. And it's great because we could put it under, I don't know where we would. I said, put it under the cultural commission or council. Again, how that would get, spent. I know we don't have a development agency, but we have many groups that already do these functions. Locally owned retail, again, we have a program, right? So all it is filling out a form, sending it in, and council's the ultimate decision on. It's a consent item. It's ministerial. And then the public-private partnership and right-of-way betterments fund, that's the more difficult one, right? One, you need to have enough funds amassing to where you can actually start negotiating. So you're going to have to see a few of the projects really come actually to fruition and then start paying into the fund. And then what we would be able to do is other developers start coming along. You can start working with them to, like I had mentioned, to maybe buy into, hey, instead of just building the regular generic 16, 17 foot retail, we want to build a 2-story mezzanine theater, and, we'll pay for that portion, and that would be city controlled. So, or parking structures, adding on to their parking structure and having, public-private agreement for that. So that one's a little bit more complicated. It would have to be, negotiated out by staff and council during a future entitlement, but the funds would be there, so you actually would have some leverage and ability to negotiate. And then obviously, like I said, once it's done, the funds would be there for, restorations of the public right of way. All of this would be intended to be only spendable within the 10 blocks. So it's contributing directly to the people who are funding it. So current gross rental rates. So this is just kind of some information and kind of how I got to the 30%. So I looked at the average that I could find, listed 28 to 40 square feet. 40 is obviously the newer stuff, like in the Benton and whatnot. And the 28's the older, more towards Franklin Square and stuff like that. So it ranges pretty wildly, but if you took, obviously we're going to take the high end because it's going to be all new retail. So today's rate, $40 over 12 months would be about $3.33 a square foot a month. So if we subsidize that up to 50%, that's only $1.67. That's why I lean towards a percentage of the gross rentable rate. I know we had talked last time about trying to just cut the 50% across the board, but this is why. You could buy 3 to 1 potentially. The fee would not be payable. A nice thing for the developer is the fee would not be payable until after the project's completed, after they're already recouping money, and then they pay after the year what their grossable rent was. And so it's less of a burden on them, and it's more of a deferred, it's a deferred benefit for all of us and their development and property as well. And then I don't know what staff would want to do, but I mean, it's not very difficult to spot check on some websites every now and again. And then if need be, we put in that we have the right to fully audit the program if we deem that it's not, not that we want to audit it, but if it is, we always have that. And that usually keeps people pretty honest, I've found. So a couple items that I think we actually would still need to address, even if we decided to kind of run down this path of a community benefits program, is define the rentable square footage. So everyone's on the same playing field. It's not common space. It's not lobby space. It's not hallway circulation space. So making sure that we identify what is, because we don't want to tax them, overly burden them either, right? They're not being able to recoup rent on it. We're trying to toe the line, right? Areas that would be still considered would be, we've talked a lot about having rooftop bars and stuff, and that would be part of the building. So it would be a little bit potentially different, or public viewing areas, but they would have to be, this is where we have to flush it out, but it would have to be publicly accessible during normal business hours and serve a function. Can't just, there's some space up there. There's got to be something that would, be the interaction with the community.
So not a residential fire pit or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just say we have access, but again, I don't know exactly. We'd have to think about it, right? But I'd want to be clear, right? Just to define it so everybody's on the same page. And then I don't remember, and I know we've talked about it, but it kind of came up, it sparked my mind, is something in here for an enforcement of empty retail. We had talked about that a few times and I don't remember it going in and I don't know what, I think legal was supposed to come back, but it was just something that I want to touch on. Just to see what options we had. Because again, the goal isn't to find the goals to get the people in there. That's it. So that was probably quite a lot, and we can go back and jump around. Questions?
I think my question was, is it what you're establishing here fixed or is it negotiable throughout the life in perpetuity? Because you said perpetuity, that's a long.
Perpetuity. The goal would be to make it as simple as possible and just leave it as a percentage forever. And that way it's not flexible. Like I said, they get the space for the building. Once the building's taken down, then obviously the covenant is gone. So they wouldn't have to pay anymore at that point. It's
That's
just part
only
of
a
the
concern because this, the stadium, for example, also had a similar contract. And then they were locked in and we realized we weren't getting enough. So I don't ever want to get to a point where we're not getting enough.
No, I agree. And that's why I have a range. I think the hard part is you have to balance, right, the feasibility of it as well. I mean, there's a bunch of fees for park, there's a ton. And so I don't want to, you also want people to participate in it, right? So it's like a fine line of how much can you get before you bleed them to where they don't want to come back, right? And so that was one of the things in some of the reports and other programs is the programs that seem to be really going after them, or having huge hurdles to get there, there wasn't a lot of participation. And so then you lose the opportunity to have that funding source. So and that's why I have a range. I don't think you can go above 15. I think that's probably going to,
Too far.
I actually thought everybody was going to think I was crazy going in at 10 and 15. So I appreciate you thinking I didn't go in enough. But yeah, I think, and that's where I want Ben to kind of gauge it because he's got a little bit more insight, but I'm with you. I would much rather have it start a little high and have to throttle it back than start low and never catch up. So I agree.
And we're not locked into $40 as a ceiling because it's
a
percentage
percentage.
based. Okay.
I'm just showing what today's value is for the logic and understanding to show it like roughly what it would translate to. But yes, no, that's why I think tying it to a percentage base is just the easiest. I don't want to tie it to CPI. Everything gets convoluted. It's like just report your monthly intake, your yearly intake, pay your annual dues, and
I do have one question. If you could go to the last slide.
this one, the additional items.
Yes, the enforcement of empty retail. Is this customary?
Customary? No, it's not something we currently do. I've heard of other cities who have a retail storefront program where they put artwork up instead or something else, which we talked about before, maybe establishing something like that.
Right, putting art in the windows or something, temporary art.
Right.
Yeah. So just to be clear, if there is empty retail, that fine, that would also go into the fund?
Yeah, I put in here that the fine should just go into the gross rental for the retail.
Okay.
Support retail. That's the problem, right? We're not having the funding of retail, so we probably need to subsidize people.
Right.
Sorry, that was the logic.
Yeah.
And again, I just threw out, what it's something that we all had talked about, but it wasn't in the plan. And so I thought this was probably the last time to talk about it. I included.
Can I ask a question? Sure. I don't know the rules here. You said you looked at other cities. Did you see this kind of approach? Anywhere in particular? Yeah.
There are some that charge a flat fee, or a percentage. There's some that did point-based, but it got too complicated and then they reduced it. There's some that are just straight up negotiated. So it's kind of a wild west of how to implement this and what,
Yeah, my familiar mostly was with Mountain View and Sunnyvale, and it's been a couple of years since I've looked at them. So, yeah, were there particular cities that you thought were good examples to look at?
No, it's kind of a hybrid because we have a unique situation, right? We don't have a lot of the structures and infrastructure that we would need to support the full downtown. And so with that, it kind of led to a little bit different strategy. When you have all that infrastructure and you're really just converting or expanding, it's a little bit easier. So I really thought that, with looking at the recent budget from the city that just came out showing that we still are showing deficits moving into the years to come, that if we don't have a source to keep this thing alive and keep it going down Franklin, it's not gonna go. So that's kind of what led to this.
Based on whatever action occurs tonight, I think staff's going to need to look at this a little bit. And
I'm sure.
a couple of questions that come to mind, one would be how this interrelates with the density bonus law and things like that are already out there that we have to deal with. And then in terms of fining someone for having empty retail space, that too, there's a lot of, when we deal with fining people for code violations and things like that, there's an appeals process. There's a whole lot of rules around that too. So we would have to look at that pretty carefully.
Okay.
And Chair, the subsidy, would that be available to any kind of retail establishment, or there be, we've talked a lot about mom and pops, for example, versus a franchise.
I mean, ultimately it would be at the council's discretion, right? Because it would be I think that's how do you guys do the subsidies for utilities? It's just an application and a verification.
I'm not aware that we subsidize utilities.
We have
I'm not sure what you mean, but
okay.
Because I think again, there's a lot. You mean rates, that utility rates that different people pay?
Specific individuals who have to apply for it.
Oh, like a low income individual.
Income,
I see.
Not subsidized across the board, but there was a program for low income.
I'm not familiar with what SVP does. I mean, we have some low income programs within our department where there's an application process and people can receive financial assistance to rehabilitate their homes. And
who is there an approval of the council, or is it a staff level only?
It's a staff level. I mean, the overall program is a council approval, how the budget and the parameters and all that, but then it's implemented by staff.
Yeah, I didn't want to put I'm trying to make it as, I know Andrew probably thinks it's already really complicated. I'm just,
it's
I
not
really,
complicated.
I get that there are some things that we'd have to look at, but again, I think pulling them from what, the fee and stuff, obviously there's some organization, but I don't think there's an issue. I mean, like I say, staff level stuff, ministerial as much as possible on the application.
Yeah, I think what's potentially complicated is state law and how we navigate through that.
Yeah. What do you think?
Andrew brought up a good point. How do you manage it? How do you enforce it? How do you follow up that the program is being complied with? That's the tricky part.
Well, you're talking about the fines, not the funding, although you're talking about the funding with the density bonus and all that from a legal standpoint, but you were talking implementation of the fines for the retail, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I just wanted to separate the two. I just put this up there, sorry, just because I remembered it wasn't in here and I want to address it. And I'm sorry if I brought some confusion. So the laws for the housing, you'll go take it back and find out what we can and can't implement.
Yes. Yeah. I think that, again, I will see what the input is here tonight, but a next step would probably be for staff to take the concept back, do some analysis. We can include our consultants.
Correct. And they're
expecting it, and then come back with a report out to the task force.
Yeah, I was going to add, I'm wondering if the consultants can look for us if other cities have this empty retail. I know San Francisco has it, but they have a hard time enforcing it. But I wonder if they could come up with a successful model that some city somewhere has put in place, because that would be really, because just walking through downtown, there are a lot of empty storefronts. And it sounds like we're going to have another one pretty soon, which sucks. But yeah, what can we do? Because it's up to the people who own the properties. And if they don't want to lease at a certain rate that they're being offered, then, the citizens suffer because we don't have businesses to go to.
I do think though that, and this might be the difficult part of this now that I'm thinking about it, is I don't know. Well, let's just look at it first. I don't want to say what I'm thinking. Sometimes if you say it, it becomes a reality. So it's better just to be quiet.
Okay.
I'm working my own plan out of my head.
Okay.
Sorry.
I have another question. So I know that the fund, will accumulate and there's these buckets, which I really like some of the money should go here, but then I think we had talked about at some point there being some kind of like a business association or something like that. Would it be possible to look into arranging maybe for that body to manage the money so that it's not on the city or staff, or to maybe city council can establish that this business association has the authority to manage this fund, just some way to take the burden off of the staff and maybe leave it with people who are invested in the 10 block or have businesses there or things like that.
Yeah, we did have a outline of a downtown management entity in the precise plan, and maybe that's something we can go back and look at and see how we maybe add.
Maybe you just put in some kind of language that says, at a future date.
Yeah.
Should be,
When-
if and when one is established, council can direct or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
The problem is that it doesn't, it's hard because it doesn't exist. I would love to have,
Right.
a whole redevelopment agency manage this thing all the way to the end goal. But that's just not the reality. So I was trying to use the tools at the disposal. So sorry. Just figure I put here. Do we want to open it to public comment? Okay. We have another section for other comments that are not specific to this. It's just a placeholder. It really, yeah. Yeah. So the idea was 50% to get them motivated, right? To get it filled. That's the idea. Or at least it's putting into the fund so we can provide the subsidies through the subsidy program for retail. Oh, at this point, we don't know it can be. So I want to be very honest, right? So. No, as Member Chan said, the only one that I have seen is San Francisco as well, and yeah, so it's kind of a newer strategy. All right, we want to open up the public. Oh. Does any of the members of the public would like to speak first before we go online? Okay, seeing none. If there's any members of the public that are online that would like to speak, please raise your hand and we'll call on you individually.
We do have 8 members of the public online, but currently I see no hands.
Okay.
Oh, there's one hand. All right, Donna, you should be able to unmute and speak.
I'll go ahead and speak. No, I think this is good to think through and utilize going forward. Keep going. I just want to say support. Doesn't sound like anyone else is talking, but yeah, I think this is really good to keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. All right. Any other members of the public like to speak on this issue or item? Oh. Yeah, can you, sorry, just to me.
Just take the microphone.
Did you come up with this presentation?
Yes.
It's great. Thank you very much.
Oh,
It's very, very detailed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll close public comment and we don't have to vote, right?
No.
No. So we'll close public comment. And is there any additional comments, thoughts?
So what's the timeline for WRT to come back with some thoughts on this?
So I have to give this to them first.
1 week.
I met with them this week and they did ask. They've been expecting this additional information for them. So I'll be getting this to them tomorrow, and then maybe I can email the task force with more of a timeline. They are coming back to the next meeting in August to go over the financial analysis for the City Hall relocation study. So hopefully at that same meeting, we'll be able to do both.
Thank you.
Andrew, do you know how long staff will take to look? I know you're smiling. I know, I'm sorry.
No, I think we can work with that timeline too. So we'll work with WRT and be
Obviously, if there's any questions,
coordinated. Yeah.
hopefully, like I said, I mean, hopefully it's pretty simple. I mean, realistically, we're just applying a fee and then trying to drop it in a bunch of buckets. But I get it.
The devil's in the details.
I know. That's why I tried to remove as many details as possible. No, I'm just kidding. All right, thank you. All right, is there a motion to close this item out? Oh,
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of closing out item 3 on tonight's agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. All right, we will move on. Thank you. All right. So I guess we're just down to public presentations. So if there's any member of the public that'd like to speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda, please come forward. Yeah, Mary. Welcome, Mary.
Good evening. I'm going to do 2 speeches. I'm going to do one for Dan Ondersek, and I've got 2 people here that'll cede time. And then I'm going to do one for me, and I don't think I need it, but just in case, I've got Connie Costa on the line that will cede time. So if you'll bear with me just a little bit here. And by the way, he wants this on record, if that's possible. In the 1960s, this city's council and planning commission began a legacy of parcel by parcel development, which has led to the chaotic fabric of this community. All one must do is look at the buildings that were built on the footprint of the demolished downtown to see the results. An embarrassing mishmash of apartment complexes, a courthouse, and a couple of unrelated strip malls separated by acres of unused parking lots. The current downtown is emblematic of 1960s planning, ugly and uninviting. Over the 2 decades, cities began to change to the planning pioneers reaching back and began precise plans with their citizens' inputs and objective design standards. This succeeded in reincarnating hundreds of downtowns across America. Since 2018, our group contacted multiple cities with successful pedestrian-friendly, inviting destination points and found they all share 2 things in common. They all have precise plans and solidified these plans with objective design standards or form-based codes. The beauty of each precise plan is hidden in not what you see, but what you don't notice. All the sidewalks are the same width, allowing for outdoor dining and open walkways for pedestrians. Its windows are all the same height, inviting you to look in. Its open spaces and parks are enticing and designed for people. The building's architecture can all be unique. The precise plan and standards make downtown a people-friendly, walkable city center. Most importantly, precise plan ensures that we don't have to trust that the developer will do the right thing, as both Santa Clara's Council and the Planning Commission did when they approved the downtown Silicon Sage building on the corner of Monroe and Benton. This building is a case study of planning failure. Today, the Sage building is literally falling apart. The building does not have the ventilation to allow restaurants. The first floor is barren. If Santa Clara had a precise plan backed by these objective standards, this architectural nightmare would never have been approved. The developer would have had to go back to redesign the building and meet these standards. Lastly, and incredibly important, if the state finds a city lacking in strong objective design standards, they can come in and mandate projects that the city may not want. On July 13, Lamb Associates made a plea to the Planning Commission for approval of the development of 950 Monroe, which is in the downtown precise plan boundaries. Before the precise plan has been approved by council, before it was approved by council, this council approved for the precise plan is scheduled for the council's approval for this precise plan is scheduled for this fall. If Lamb had waited, their building will have the same sidewalk width, the same retail window heights and standards to ensure successful, vibrant retail. Instead of recognizing the benefits of the upcoming precise plan and the thousands of hours of labor that Downtown Task Force invested in this plan, Santa Clara's Planning Commission voted to approve the project 6-1. They voted for more parcel by parcel development. This is evidence that our Planning Commission is either uneducated or chose to ignore the benefits of the precise plan and objective design standards. Our group is now advocating that they be retrained in both in the next month. Our hope is that council has more education and wisdom on the subject. We all want 950 Monroe to be a significant, successful development in the downtown that meets all the needs of Santa Clarans have requested in the precise plan. The downtown also remains one of the worst planned regions in the Bay Area. This is due to its planners' addiction to parcel by parcel development, like 950 Monroe. It is time for Santa Clara leadership to stop planning like it's 1960 and start planning for 2060. This will only change when a downtown precise plan backed by objective standards is approved by council in the fall. So that concludes Dan Ondersek, and I'll go get mine now. Any questions by anybody? Okay. Okay, mine is a little bit shorter. The vote last Thursday given by Planning Commission shows how ineffective they are. It was a 6-1 vote for the developer. Don't get me wrong. I would love it if Lamb Project followed the precise plan. However, the project has flaws that need to be remedied that you won't see till after it's built. Planning should not have voted for this project until the precise plan and objective standards are approved by council. Reclaiming our downtown, the Downtown Task Force and WRT have worked years to complete a precise plan and objective standards for the 10 blocks of downtown. Those two documents and the EIR go before the Planning Commission for approval August, September of this year. We can't return to business as usual by building parcel by parcel. And we can't put in jeopardy the possibility of a state takeover to build affordable housing. This project should have been declined by all the planning commissioners, not just one, on the basis that the city has paid not only for the precise plan, but the objective standards as well, which prevent building parcel by parcel, or a takeover by the state. It seems to me that the Planning Commission is at odds with the City Council because they paid for the precise plan and objective standards, which are scheduled for council consideration in a couple of months. If you have been reading the news lately, you will see that the state has confiscated a project in San Jose already. Just, I think it was last month. The only remedy for this now is to educate our mayor and the council of the importance of making the LAM project wait until both documents are approved. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll speak real quick just on the planning. I did go to Planning Commission for that project and asked to wait until the plan came before council and got approved. I was there, went back to planning since there was a question. I was there until almost 1 o'clock, and it was pretty discouraging, I'll say. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate all the words. Yeah.
Yeah, come to the mic.
Sorry, you mind? Just because we have people on, we have people on the online. So thank you. Welcome.
My name is Joanne, and I think that having LAM wait until the precise plan is in place will alleviate a lot of headaches in the future by people coming back and saying, well, LAM did it, why can't I? I think it's just a good idea to wait. Oh, the mic isn't on.
Oh, it's on.
It is,
It's
it
on.
is.
You're okay.
I just talk off. Anyway, sometimes.
Well, thank you very much. All right. Are there any members of the public online that would like to speak on an item that was not on tonight's agenda? Please raise your hand. Call on you.
I have one.
All right.
Donna West, you should be able to unmute and speak.
Donna, welcome.
Hi, and Adam, I want to thank you for your effort and your attendance at the Planning Commission. I did watch from afar most of what happened. So thank you for that. I support Mary and you and the task force myself. And I realized that during all this that you have to have everyone saying we need high density and people going to downtown, but we have to build downtown first. Or else if we don't have downtown, it's just another housing complex, development. So, let's get the downtown plan approved. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Really appreciate you being on the call for the planning as well. So thank you. All right. Any additional hands from the Zoom meeting?
I see no other hands.
All right. We don't have to close. So I guess there's a staff report.
So the one update I have for you is on the environmental impact report. Yeah. The public comment period for the EIR closed on July 14th. We received 3 comment letters that have been submitted to our environmental consultant for their response.
Did we have any that were too large to be received? Might as well just ask. No.
I wouldn't be aware of them if we did, because I didn't receive them. But
Okay.
I can tell you that we received 3 via email. It's been almost a week since then. I have not received any in the mail as of today.
All right. Thank you. Do we have a update? Do we know when we would likely go to council?
So likely council probably November of this year, by the time we respond to comments and set something for the Planning Commission hearing. And then for City Council, there's a 30-day timeline to set something for hearing for each one. So it's.
And we have to go to planning?
We do have to go to Planning Commission for their recommendation.
Can we get on planning now?
Can you go to planning now? To the planning commission now?
Well, the only reason I ask is because they didn't read it before. They're probably not going to read it when it's done. So we might as well just go and get the recommendation. So,
So,
all right. So
the other.
I will take that as no. We have to
No.
wait until it's done.
We do. And we do still have a revised form-based code that we'll be bringing with you. I met with the consultant this week to go over the last couple of questions they have. They're going to make the revisions. So hopefully within the next few weeks,
Okay.
I'll be able to send out that revised document with your comments incorporated. And if we didn't incorporate it, they're going to provide explanation. But a majority of them
Oh.
were incorporated.
Oh, interesting. You said they needed to reach out. They had questions or no?
Oh, we just reviewed them together, the changes. Yeah. We're all good. We don't have any
Perfect.
other questions. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Does it go to HLC as well?
So I'm going to be bringing it to HLC. I brought it to them before as an FYI item, like a study session. So I'll be bringing it to them as well. I was hoping to do that in August, depending on when we get it. I'm still hoping it'll be enough time, but it might be September meeting. That's all the updates I have.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting of July 20th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. I said aye. I guess I didn't, but I did. All right. Well, thank you all for attending the meeting. The next regularly scheduled DCTF meeting will be August 17th, 2023. Thank you.